All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Here we are. I feel like I just saw you. It feels like a mere few days ago that I got to see you in Toronto. Joké, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, it was nice to come out to Toronto and meet you and celebrate you and meet all the other amazing designers in the room.
It was amazing. And we're going to dive into all things community and designers and how we know each other. But before we do, why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners? Let them know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. My name is Joké Durojaiye. My last name is a mouthful, but my first name is spelled like joke, but it's not a joke. I am originally from Nigeria, and that's where the name came from. I have been, this is like my, I don't know, how many careers I've had, so many, but I keep landing back on design, everything I do. I've been in the, design space graphically, online doing web development and graphic design and all that. I've been a real estate agent for about 11 years, and I just always gravitate towards the design part of real estate. And that's why I found myself, becoming a stager and owning a company that, does business in the Seattle area.
So I want to talk about that because, wow, you're doing all the things, woman. Real estate. I actually did not realize you've been doing real estate for 11 years. Were you doing it in Seattle for 11 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a license, Washington State broker's license since 2007, like the worst time to be a real estate agent. And so, I did that until 2018, where I then went into home staging. Like I said, I was a senior agent at Redfin, and I was part of the client education initiative where, we taught the home buying classes. So I do like learning, sharing, and, exchanging knowledge in that way.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so cool. So it seems obviously like a natural extension of your real estate business to offer home staging. Is that what you were doing? You were the realtor and then you were telling your clients, I can do the home staging so that you don't have to outsource it?
A little bit, but for the most part, I think in my late real estate career, I focused more on the buyers, the buy side. And that actually opened my eyes to a lot of things, how buyers interact with homes and what they're looking for. And that it always gets me when somebody walks in the house with a client and they're like, oh my gosh, they fall in love with this house versus one that is empty and not staged. And I find that they approach them differently. One is more transactional, where they're looking at the house as it's just a house because there's nothing in it to make it homey, And so they just want to bargain and chip on that and get it for the best money. And it's just so transactional. But when you now flip the coin and see a house that's staged, you can see them gravitate towards the emotion and the story that the home tells. So that got me into just learning the psychology of, home selling and what sells, what people are looking for. And for me, it's more than just putting furniture in a house. It's more than just staging, it's marketing. Because I approach a house for sale like any other product that we need to market. And, home staging is my tool for you to market that. And that's what I do for my agent clients and homeowners alike.
I love that. It's so true. And so many of us who've been to open houses or who have been on that house hunting journey can relate to it. And obviously, you're speaking to designers, and we obviously value a decorated and designed space, but it is such an emotional connection. I love that you kind of made that observation really early on. So we recently got to see each other in person. You came all the way to Toronto for my big designers room announcement and event at IDS. We had a meetup at IDS, and it was so amazing. You had literally gotten off the red eye. So
Yes,
someone was like,
my
Joké
eyes
just got
were
off the
red.
plane. Your eyes were literally red. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I was so honored that you came from so far to come to our event and meet other designers in person. It was just so special. But that's not the first time we met.
No, no.
No. So I met you. Well, I'll let you tell the story.
Okay, so what had happened was I went to RISACON, the Real Estate Staging Association convention, which happens once a year in Las Vegas. And every year I go there. Well, the pandemic took a few years of that, but every time I would go to RISACON, I always try to go with a goal in mind. And my focus last year when I attended was how to pivot and diversify my business. I am not a trained interior designer, but I always wanted to um, offer that because it's a demand from our clients. So we stage a house, it looks really nice. And they were like, oh my gosh, if you had done this, we would never have moved. We hear that all the time. Or can you come, design my new house where I'm moving to? And I was always turning down business. And I'm like, no, I can't do that because I feel like I'm not trained to do that. But you know what? I learned, there was a book that I read, and it was Who, Not How. Because I want to offer this service, but I don't have to be the one offering it. So just having the right people in my corner. But even at that, it was essential for me to learn the process. I understand that the process is very different from staging. And so I went to RISACON, my long story of how we met. So I went
That's
to
good. I like
RISACON.
it.
So I saw that on the one of the sessions. We have breakout session, we have keynote speakers, and Rebecca was one of those keynote speakers. And I was like, you know what, this is what I need, because she's talking about how to diversify your business, home staging, and how to add design. That's exactly what I was looking for. So that was if I did nothing at RISACON, that was my main goal, attending Rebecca. So I met her through that, asked a few questions. It was very warm. And then I heard about her process, power of process. And that spoke to me because I am so process driven. And I love to put things together in how does this work? And that was what was missing for me, knowing the design part of things and knowing the staging part and not, so it helped me to bring it all together. So that's my long speech of how we met.
You know what? I did not know that you were so intentional. And I really love that. And I think that's an incredible message for anyone listening. So often we go to these events, these industry events or these trips, for work, and we just kind of go, and then maybe we're shy. We don't really step out of our comfort zone. I'm speaking, from experience. And you come home and you're kind of like, I don't even know if it was worth it. I spent all that money on the hotel and this and that. And yeah, maybe I learned something. But when you go to an event with an intention, with a goal in mind, the way you just described, you are almost guaranteed, I think, to come back with maybe not exactly what you thought you were looking for, but with something. And I think that's
Absolutely.
so, that says a lot about your personality, Joké, that you are clearly have a growth mindset, and that you're always putting yourself into situations where you can learn, but to be so intentional. I hope you give yourself credit for that, because that is
thanks.
really, it is. It's quite amazing. I wish I was more like that.
Thank you.
Shoot, that's really good.
But you know what? The thing is, just like you said, I have been to so many different events in the past without any intention, just like, oh, there's so much to learn. And I end up being overstimulated with all the information. I bring it all home. I take all the notes. I close the notebook and I never open them again. Yeah. But if I go and be like, okay, this is one thing, I'm learning all the things, but there's one thing that I want to focus on, and that helped me out. So it's from experience of doing all the things and nothing, Yeah.
We all learn from experience. And I love that. And it brought you to me, and we got to chatting after my talk at RISACON. And then you ended up signing up for Power of Process. So I would love to hear from you as someone who has relatively recently, I think, is that right, taken on interior design clients.
Yeah.
How has Power of Process helped you?
Honestly, it's all in the title of that course, the power that you have when you have a process. And I've always wanted to, I set up my own home staging business with that kind of thing in mind and building process as I went documenting them that I'm able to then share with other people. So when I found somebody who has already done what I want to do, and I don't know how to like go reinvent the way. It's a waste of time for me to start building it from the scratch. Rebecca has built this thing. So I went in, I registered, and oh my goodness, by the time I think it's a 6-week class, and by the time I got through week 1, I'd already said yes to my first design client. And we're still working. Yes, yes. I don't know if I ever shared this with you or the group. So I landed my first client. They've always been there, and I've always said no. But now knowing the process and having my own process, because she gives you this grand tool, the blueprint. This is how she does it, but then you can adapt it. I like that I was able to adapt it to my own 5-step process. You had your own 7-step process, and your process doesn't need to look like mine, but I just need to have a process. And that gave me the confidence, knowing that I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm doing it. Therefore, I can tell my clients what to expect. That's always been a thing for me. I like clarity of why, when, what happened, and then, make it happen if you promise it. And I learned all of that in the power of process and putting my process together, presented it to the clients like I was a pro. I've been doing this forever, and they were eating it.
Yes.
And it made them feel, and they always say, like, thank you for all your hard work, because there's the feedback. I give them, this is the process, because that's what I learned from you. This is what to expect. This is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and making sure that it's not just something that I write down, but something that I live and deliver to them. And they have been so appreciative of that. So that's given me like amazing clarity just to have a process for how I do. And that's the way to do anything, in my own opinion. And that's why I gravitated to, when I heard that word, the power of process, like that's what I made.
So I was intentional when I named the course too.
Yeah, I love that.
Because I had the same experience in my business. I love that you landed your very first interior design client in week 1 of Power Process. That is, I mean, that's amazing. Let's just have a moment to celebrate you for that. So how is that project going? And are you following the process that you laid out at the beginning?
Absolutely. Because I would be lost if I tried to get away from the process that I laid out. Because I spent a lot of time writing out the process, doing a Canva of this is what to expect. Gave it to the client. So now it becomes gospel. I have to make it happen because I've shared it with them. This is what you're supposed to expect. So every phase, we're following it to the letter, exactly how it's written down. What I said they would expect, we're making it happen. If it changes, I get ahead of it and let them know we're changing this because this. And I give them that weekly. Every week, I give them an update. This is where we are. If I have pictures, I share with them. And then we're ending. This is we started this in November early November. Mm-hmm. And so we're going into I don't know how many weeks, but at the end of February, we should conclude this. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. First of all, a couple of things you just said there that I just want to circle back to that were really powerful, that your process becomes like the gospel. And I love that. That's just like another way to sort of look at it as at how it is your guiding light, right? Mm-hmm. And then this idea that you're articulating that I wrote down is that, your process, and it's funny, I've never thought of it this way, but your process holds you accountable. So not only does your process attract better paying clients, show your clients always what to expect, yada, yada, all the things I talk about in POP.
Yeah.
But it's holding you accountable because you've told your client this is how things are going to go. You better freaking follow that. Absolutely. Otherwise, it looks like you've got total disorganization happening. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. Also, having a process, just from my own experience of running my own home staging business, it's not just holding me accountable. Anyone that comes through the door wanting to join the team, they also have a path and a guide of how we do things, and they can follow that path, and it becomes part of your training process as well. So you're not just, throwing darts and thinking about everything when they're about to happen. If it's something that you're going to be doing over and over, it makes sense to just have a repeatable process that you can hand to anyone. So whether I am the one doing the project or not, this process, I'm handing it to my interior designer, my general contractor. Everybody is like following the same thing, and it keeps everything just going smoothly.
Totally. It's so true. It's so true. I mean, you're so fortunate that you are hitting the ground running, lady. Like when I started my business and I started hiring people, whew, like I think back to those days and I think, oh my God, Rebecca, how did anyone work for you? I remember having, a part-time junior designer sitting in the office with me, and she'd be like, okay, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm here. Like, how can I help you? And I would just freeze, like, I don't even know where to start. Maybe do some CAD stuff, but shoot, I have to place a few orders, I think. And I haven't called that contractor back. And I was like, every day was triage, like, what is urgent and pressing, and let's get it taken care of. And then be like, okay, well, after I've done that, then what? Like, these are like junior designers, design interns asking me. And here I am, the like boss. And I'm like a deer in headlights, like, okay, I guess maybe should we go get some fabric? Like, yeah, okay. Why don't you go to Crabbit and get some neutral fabrics? And yeah, that's a good start. Like, I was a chaotic mess. And so you are so right.
So no. So was I at the beginning. So was I. And the thing is, because of the way my brain works, I went against the grain of how I would normally work, not having a process, because it's something new, therefore, and then it's getting busy. I'm just going, reacting to everything. I literally had to stop in my tracks and just like, okay, time out. I needed to stop, know exactly what I'm doing, where I'm going with this, and started documenting, writing it down, like, okay, now this makes sense. And then when I started to hire people, it makes sense, and it was easier for me to hand that in. And the thing is not set in stone. I tell everyone that comes through the door, like, this is our baby. I need you, as you are putting these things to work, to find what is not working, and we will keep, improving and evolving it together. So it doesn't stop with me, or because we now have a process. It's changeable, it's living, breathing, and it can change anytime. And it showed.
100%. And I mean, I say that all the time. You've heard me say that inside Power Process. I love hearing you say that. As someone who is relatively new to the design industry, you're not new at life, right? So you've seen a few things in your time, and so you understand that there is no one set way of doing things. Mm-hmm. And I love that at the beginning of our call today, you did mention that, yes, in the course, I provide you with my way. Like, here's my 7 steps. Here's what I do at each step. And I really do walk everyone through. And that's actually a new part of the course, because in 2023, right before you took it, we did update the entire course. And I made it even more actionable, even more bite-sized, so people could really, hey, how does Rebecca run a trade day? What does that entail? And so that they could, if they wanted to copy how I did things, they could, but more so that you can take it, like you just said, it was like music to my ears to hear you say that, and then you can modify it and make it your own. And that is what I want. I'm not telling everyone to do it my way. And I know there's a lot of courses out there that say, take this and you can't fail. But I do believe that, especially in a service-based industry, in a creative industry like this, it's important to find a way, but it doesn't have to be the way that everyone else is doing it.
For sure.
Totally. So was there anything that surprised you about the course, or about yourself when you went through the course, that you weren't expecting?
I don't think there was anything like way out there. It was, when you go to any of these classes and things, sometimes they are confirmation of what you already know, and you need somebody to actually bring that out of you. So there were a lot of moments where just thinking about sourcing, trade prices, and which I'm already savvy to buying, wholesale for my business, were just kind of a totally different way of how do you price it for a design client? how do you make money from the sourcing? And those are the things that I'm still learning. Even though I say I have put my process together, there's still room for improvement always. And there are things I'm like, I could have made more money from this, or I could have done this differently. So I'm learning, and with that, I'm fine tuning it. But there were no big surprises. It was just very providing clarity and putting me through a vision of this is how things work. And that was what I was missing.
Is there any step in your process today that is your favorite or that is the most successful for you?
They have all been smooth sailing. It's how I have made it easy for the clients to pay without questioning me, because they already have all the details of what I'm going to do with their money, when I'm going to do it. And so far, they've seen that I've delivered on what they've paid for so far.
I love that. It's so much about, I mean, this is foundational, really, is setting expectations for clients. Much about they know what's coming next, and there's no surprise, and they're not feeling blindsided by an invoice. Like, what? Where do these hours come from? I thought we were done. And I know designers have experienced that before, where a project's come to an end and they're nervous to send the client their final invoice because the client doesn't know it's coming or knows something's coming, but it's actually higher. And I've been in that situations more times than I like to admit, where I'm holding my breath, discounting my hours because I'm looking at the invoice. I'm like, oh, are they going to pay it? Whereas the way that it sounds like you've structured your process and your payments is that they know what's coming. Now, do you follow a fixed fee? Is that why? Do they know exactly the amount, or are you billing hourly?
So I'm not doing the hourly. And I would confess that I signed up for the pricing course, but I haven't quite finished it. So once I get back in there and I, learn more about pricing, I might look into the hourly rate, but it's something that I haven't because I'm not familiar with the hourly rate. So what I do is I do flat fees for most things and percentages. What I mean by that is this is my design fee. For you to hire me and I'm going to do all this is what you're going to pay me, and it's due upfront. So I get my design fees upfront. And then, of course, the materials we're buying, I am not even I don't feel like I need to disclose, I buy it for this much and you get it for this much. This is a sofa, it's 2,500, end of story. That's all my client needs to know. I don't need to tell them how much people, blah, 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 blah. And so on top of that, of course, I've added my margin and I can make some money off of that. And then the part where, one thing that I love that I learned from you is getting that retainer, the out of scope retainer. OMG, that has saved me a lot, because the things that you don't anticipate, and then now you have to go, I don't want to go back to my clients and be like, I actually need more money than I thought I needed. But right off the bat, I just added the 15% out of scope for whatever, freight, boarding, anything that we need. And I let them know as part of the weekly update, like, oh, this came up and I'm going to do it. Is it okay if I take it out of scope? And they're like, yeah, totally do it. So if I did not have that, I would be bankrupt right now. So, so that was
Don't say that. Give yourself more credit. But
no, so that is huge for me. That's something that I would not have known to add on my own. So that was a big takeaway from that class. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for those who are listening, you're like, I don't know what she's talking about. I do share my sort of method for collecting money from clients inside the course. And one of the things I talk about is an incidentals retainer. You can call it whatever you like, a miscellaneous incidentals, out of scope, whatever you want. But essentially, it's money that we collect to cover incidentals, things that pop up, unexpected shipping, deliveries, storage fees, cost to inspect before it goes to your receiver, things like that. And it's true. And the only downside I'll say, Joké, that we're going through right now, it's not a downside, but it's like sometimes I have to return money to the client.
Yes.
So we finally just finished a project and my team was like, so we have to write the client a check. I'm like, I'm sorry, what now? Like, yeah, we still have a couple grand left in their retainer. I'm like, God damn it. but the client
Yeah,
loves
I'm
it
looking at
because
that.
it's
Yeah,
a
I'm
nice
looking at
way to
that to
end.
like, that means I might owe them money, and that's okay. But at least I'm not paying out of pocket for anything, and it's that I didn't think about. If I have to write them a check at the end, so be it. And I'm keeping that money separate too. I guess that's the thing to think about when you collect that retainer. You know, it's not your money. I just have it in a
Right.
totally separate account so that we draw from it when we need it, and then at the end we can do a reconciliation. And if we need to write them a check, we do that.
Yeah. And if you think about it this way, like what a contrast from, how I just described how I ran projects at the beginning where I was like, oh God, I have to now invoice the client. Everything's done. They've been living in their house for a month and I've let it drag on and
Mm-hmm.
I need to send them an invoice for how many thousands of dollars. Like, think about it
Mm-hmm.
from the client perspective. A project ends and you're like, as the client, you might be thinking, oh God, when's that final invoice coming? But instead now, for me anyhow, and it sounds like for you, is now when the project comes to an end, and we actually had our clients say this on site, which is what reminded us we had their money, was like, oh, I'm going to be getting a check, aren't I? So there's like think about it from your client's perspective,
Yeah.
of like, oh, I'm not going to have to pay. They're going to pay me. And what a really nice
Mm-hmm.
way to end your working relationship. Now, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes we go over to the
Mm-hmm.
retainer. We need them to
Yeah.
pay us a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
or it ends up breaking even. But it is such a game changer with your client relations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna end, but we'll see.
Well, good for you. You'll have to report back to me. Like,
I
it's like
will.
anything. You try it. And, the first few times I did this, I didn't collect enough money. I just,
Yeah.
I thought it would be enough and I calculated it based on a percentage. And then it
Mm-hmm.
came back to bite me in the behind because the client said, how did you not know that the shipping and storage was going to be this much? It's like double what you told us, because I had to
Yeah.
go to them for more money. And so I
Mm-hmm.
learned, you learn every time you do something, as long as you make a note of it and then you apply it, right? And you
Yeah.
modify your
Right.
pricing, you update your
Mm-hmm.
contract or what have you, then it's a win. It's a win-win.
Yep. Absolutely.
So what else? Tell me
What
one
else?
last what else inside the course did you, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, were there other stagers? I feel like there's been a few stagers that are doing design. Is that something that you're starting to see? Maybe not just inside the course, but in your city?
Oh yeah, in general, especially, when things slow down, everyone is looking for that other source of income. Real estate slows down and staging slows down with it. So it's always been a thing where you see people trying to do things, but I just felt like I didn't know enough to do it. But I do know that's when that who, not how thing comes to mind. Because I have an interior designer on my team, I have a general contractor. So, I mean, I just need to understand the process for myself, and then it makes it easier. Yes, we do have quite a bit of people doing that, offering interior design or whatever they can do as home stagers to keep the doors open because it's tough in the streets right now.
Yeah, it's tough in the streets. So you said you have a team. So tell us what your team looks like.
Right now, I have a team of 6, and I have an operations manager who is in charge of all things operations in the back, and I have a stager, and we have 3 staging assistants. And then I recently just brought on a business manager because I'm trying to take myself out of the equation even more and work on other things because I have other business concerns and I have a family. So I'd like to be able to take time to do those things, to grow myself, grow my family and my business, and then have other people just be more hands-on. So that's my big goal for this year, be more hands-off and have other people in charge of things.
I love this. I mean, I think that you're such an inspiration. People listening are going to be like, what? She has 6 people on her team? That's amazing. And so you're not trained in interior design. So you have an interior designer on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And you're following the who, not how, which, I mean, I have to reread that book because that's such
Oh,
a
yeah.
great reminder,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
reread it this year because I'd read it before, and then starting this year, it was my thing of, okay, I need help. And so there's so many things I want to do. It's not how I do it, but who does it? Maybe I can find someone. So I started to read that book again to get myself back into the mindset. And that's the thing with everything that we learn. We have to maybe revisit it, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that comes back to what you said at the very beginning, which is this idea of like, you can't just listen, you have to implement. So speaking of that, as you went through the 6 weeks of the course, because there's a lot of information and some of it you said was validating because you knew maybe some of that information, but it's just validating to know that you're on the right track, right? Were you able to implement like during the weeks as you were learning, or did you do the course and then implement after?
It was as I was learning. Like, remember I told you that my first project just landed in my lap like within the first week. So I think that I had to very quickly, once I knew that was coming on, and I attended the first, and I was trying to jump ahead to see the things that I needed.
I do remember that. You're like, when are you going to talk about this thing? Because I need that today.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm that drama queen. So I did go and started to create, for me, as I learned, I wanted to create that process. From the first day I heard you talk about, you need to have a process and this is what it's going to look like, even though we hadn't gone through the whole process, it gave me an idea to get started. So I started to build that in Canva. And then whenever I learned something new, I'll go back and change it or update it or do something about it. So as I was learning, I was doing. And so it made me ready when the opportunity came.
I really love that. I don't know if other people have done it that way. This is the first I've heard someone share that. I like that because it feels less overwhelming.
Yes.
Right? It's about progress over perfection. I say that all day long, but that is an example of like, let's just get something on paper. Let's just get something in Canva. And then as I build it out, I'll keep adding and tweaking as opposed to, okay, let me get everything down into a Google Doc. And then when it's all there, then I'll go and put everything into Canva. And obviously everybody works differently, but that can sometimes feel more overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's really cool. Well, it's about the time where I get every guest to share their last nugget of wisdom. I mean, I feel like you've shared so many today. Already we've talked about who, not how, being intentional in everything you do, right? Whether it's going to an event, with a course that you're taking, it just so many, your process is the gospel. It holds you accountable. And I love that you see clearly the value of investing in yourself and your business. Because that is clearly working for you. As you learn more, you invest in your business and you are growing your business. You're bringing in the who's so that you can step away. And I just think it's really, I think this episode is going to be really inspirational to so many women, especially to stagers. There's a lot of stagers listening who dabble in interior design and they're not sure it's for them. But before we sign off today, I would love for you to share a last nugget of wisdom.
Oh boy.
The pressure is on.
The pressure. What wisdom? Honestly, I think a lot of women, we tend to hold back ourselves. Maybe it's for family or because we're not sure or because we feel like, what will people say? I think that we should put ourselves out there more. And we know so much that, we have been managers of little people at home, getting kids to eat broccoli. We have had a past experience in something. Most people come into this industry, especially the staging, I don't know about design, as a second career. But then people learn, going back to learning all the things and attending all the classes, and then you just attend to attend. Just for me, my final thing is just do it. Whatever that thing is that you've always wanted to do, just get in and start doing it, because the only way you're going to get ahead and know what you're doing is by continuing doing it and seeing what doesn't work and tweaking it and getting better. But if you never start, you're never going to get there. Just start and just do it.
I love that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to start.
Yes.
I love that.
And I need to tell myself this. I tell myself this too because there's something I've been wanting to do, get on camera, do more videos, YouTube, Instagram, all of that. But I have been holding myself back for some reason. Like I don't like being on camera, but it's something that I want to do. So saying it out loud now, telling everybody just do it, I'm telling myself just to do it. So
I love it. And that's
it
what
has
I
that
say.
done.
Like when you're in a place where you want to do something, you start talking about it and then you inspire other people. And then, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then you start being able to do it for yourself. I mean, like so many of the things that I preach and I'm practicing, I'm still working on, right? Like progress over perfection. I talk about that all the time, but let's be honest, there are times where I am a perfectionist and I have to remind myself, Rebecca, done is better than perfect. That's good enough for today. Let it go and move on. And the TV and not the TV, but the video thing for you, I just want to say, you are setting yourself up for success because soon you're going to have all the time to do all of that because now you have a team and you are going to be a YouTube star, woman.
Yes, let's do it.
I love it.
You know what? I mean, there's so much that we have to offer. And if we think about all the people who are waiting to get all the things that we have, because we are custodial. I learned from my mom very early on. Growing up in Nigeria, we didn't always have much, but anything and everything my mom had, she would still share from the little she had. Like, I kid you not, like, you don't know that this woman doesn't have anything because she keeps giving away stuff. And it's just people, there are people who need what we have. If we have learned something, it has worked for us, we owe it as a responsibility to share it with other people so they don't need to reinvent the wheel. It can be something that brings in money, it can monetize it, it can be free, but we need to get it out there. And I'm always putting myself out there. Like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but there will be somebody that will enjoy that one cup of tea.
I love that advice. I love that. There will be someone who will enjoy that cup of tea. Yeah. Lady, you're filled with wisdom. I freaking love it. I love you. You've been so wonderful. Honestly, such an inspiration. I hope to see you back in POP again if you can find the time because you're a busy woman and continue to share your wisdom and how the course has helped you, but also just all the amazing things you're doing in your business. I think you're one to watch. So if those who are listening want to find and follow you, where should they do that? Tell us where to go to follow you.
So I'm on Instagram, Genesis Homestaging and Business of Homestaging.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joké, for being here today on the podcast. And I'm really excited to continue to support your business journey.